Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Final Destination Bloodlines, making $6.4 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $123 million and its worldwide total to $257 million. So the film not only has surpassed the $250 million milestone, but that's also the 5 times multiplier for the film. It has made 5 times over its $50 million budget. That is insane. And if it can keep going the way it's going, I think it can get close or just barely get over the $300 million milestone. It's still got another week until 28 years later, so still some time, but that's why I'm not so confident in it getting past the milestone. It's probably going to get very close, but still though, the fact that the movie's made this much already is absolutely astonishing. I know I've said it many times discussing this movie, but I don't think anyone was really expecting this movie to do as well as it has. This movie really brought back the franchise to the spotlight, and because of it, people clearly were thirsty for more gruesome carnivorous deaths, if you will, and the movie seemed to deliver that, and it's reaping the rewards for it. The word of mouth was solid, the buzz was there, and the legs have been very strong. It is without doubt going to be one of, if not the biggest horror movie of the summer. Again, it'll be interesting to see how it competes with 28 years later this month, but yeah, still a really surprising performance, and I mean that in the most positive way. Absolutely astonishing, stunning, and very successful performance for Final Destination Bloodlines. I don't really have anything else left to add here, just job well done. Number 4 was Karate Kid Legends, making $8.5 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $35 million and its worldwide total to $73 million. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like anyone is really interested in this movie. It took a big hit this weekend. It wasn't a catastrophic, I slipped my words up there, it wasn't a catastrophic drop off, but it still wasn't great. It fell 58% from last weekend, which wasn't even that good of an opening to begin with. So yeah, there's just the interest was just not there to begin with, and it's only worsening. Unfortunately, the word of mouth is just not doing this movie any favors. I thought with an A-, it might have been like, okay, some people might tell others to go see it, but it's clear that just the word is not getting out there. There just isn't a lot of people going out to see this or encouraging others to see it. So unlike Final Destination, which was able to bring its franchise back into the spotlight, this movie is just not doing that. I think Cobra Kai pretty much did that job already. People were satisfied with that show and how it brought Cobra Kai back, and it made for a very entertaining show, and people were satisfied with the ending, and this just felt a bit unnecessary, I think. Unfortunately, this is probably going to be one of the bigger disappointments of the summer, which obviously is disappointing. This was supposed to be like one of the big movies of the summer, and it's just not doing that. With that said, the budget wasn't too drastic. That's why it's not a total disaster. Again, this is a $45 million movie, so it's about to double its budget worldwide. Even if it falls off again, it's gonna get to that milestone. So there's that. It'll probably still double its budget worldwide, but it's still not doing stupendous numbers, unfortunately. Just not enough interest for this movie, sadly. Number 3 was Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, making $14 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $149 million and its worldwide total to $450 million. So again, it's not doing bad. I mean, well, compared to the budget, obviously there's a lot wrong here, but hey, it did manage to surpass its initial production budget. I would call that a win. All right, this movie was so expensive. The fact that it was able to make its budget back, I would call that a win, and it's on its way to $500 million worldwide. Again, not too bad. Also on par with many of the Mission Impossible movies. It's like around 20-ish million away from surpassing Dead Reckoning, which is a good sign, but it does feel like this movie is just stagnated. It's just not reaching out against, compared to the other ones, which were able to break out and reach over the core audience for these movies. This one just seems to be just, keeping it with the fans, and that's good. It's still making a hefty sum of money, even again with the budget. It's still, these numbers are still really good compared to everything else. But given that this is supposedly the final movie, and the fact that the last one was a really big blunder, you'd think this one would have shot much higher than that one, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. Like I've been saying with Thunderbolt, it seems like people are liking this movie, but they're not loving it. It's not breaking out. It's not doing anything like what Fallout did, where that just shot to the moon. This doesn't seem to be doing that. So again, this is not Karate Kid or anything, but like, yeah, it's interesting that this movie kind of seems to have just slowed down a bit. I still think it's gonna surpass the performance of Dead Reckoning. It is outpacing that movie by a wide margin. I still think it's got some juice still left in the tank, but I just don't think it's gonna be what the studio was hoping for it to be. I'm sure they were hoping it to be a much bigger, leave a much bigger impression than it has. Still really solid numbers, all things considered, but when you factor in the budget and how the movies just seem to have slowed down a bit, I think they could still be a bit underwhelmed. I won't say disappointed, but underwhelmed by where the movie has headed. So yeah, not bad, but not great either, I would say. Number 2 was Ballerina, opening with $24 million this weekend domestically and $50 million worldwide. This is the 4th biggest opening in the John Wick franchise, topping the first John Wick, but still sitting behind John Wick Chapter 2, John Wick Chapter 3, and John Wick Chapter 4, and it's the 5th biggest opening of the summer. It tops Karate Kid Legends, but it still sits behind Final Destination Bloodlines, Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, Thunderbolts, and Lilo and Stitch. So while I didn't have the highest of expectations for this movie, I still had a bit of hope. John Wick is still like a massive franchise, and I thought a larger amount of the core audience would go out and see the film, but apparently that just was not the case here. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of interest for this movie. Unfortunately, there was a lot of things that held it back. There was a lot of reshoots from what I heard, and then the studio's handling of the embargo, while not a fault of the movie, of course, that just left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I don't know what they were thinking with that move, but again, I just think the movie just wasn't interesting for enough people. I think John Wick as a core franchise is fine as it is, but trying to do like all these various spin-offs from the world, making it like a cinematic universe of sorts, that I'm just not sure if this series is big enough and the fan base is big enough to warrant like more of these types of movies. Even with the fact that John Wick was in this movie, he wasn't the main character, but he was in the movie. He had a big presence in the marketing campaign. So yeah, I just think the buzz was just not there. However, there is a bright side, I guess. The movie has a big budget, but not like a bloated big budget. It's only $90 million. It's made a majority of that back worldwide. I think it'll make it back by the end of this week, and people do seem to like it. They're not loving it, but they are liking it. Critics liked it all right, and audiences are the same. It got an A- on Cinema Score. That's on par with John Wick 2 and John Wick Chapter 3, so that could be a good sign of things to come. Again, there's not a lot of action movies out right now, but the competition is fierce. Again, we are right in the middle of the summer movie season, and there's a lot of big movies that are going to take a lot of those big premium and large format screens away from this and steal a lot of the attention away from this. So this movie's going to really need to put up a good fight, against all the other big movies. So we'll see if it can do that. If it can, I'll be impressed. I will eat my words. Clearly, there'll be more interest in these movies than I thought. But if it's not, then I think we are headed for another disappointment. I don't think it's gonna be a Karate Kid Legends of sorts, but compared to like the heights that we see for the later John Wick movies, there's a lot to be left desired here. So yeah, not a terrible opening, but not a great one. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was for the 3rd week in a row, Lilo and Stitch, making $32 million this weekend. It brings its domestic total to $335 million and its worldwide total to $772 million. Lilo and Stitch continues to crush it. It was able to bounce back after the steep drop-off last week. It dropped 48% this weekend. Nice solid hold from the previous weekend. It pushes its domestic total closer to 350, which it should get to by the end of this week. And now it's less than 30 million away from 800 million worldwide, which again, I think it'll be able to cross. Yeah, the movie's still a big blockbuster. It's still doing really well, especially compared to its $100 million budget. However, these next 2 weeks are going to be very crucial for this movie. It is facing off against two new kids movies back to back. Obviously, one will do better than the other, but still, two big kids movies, one of which is from the same studio. That's gonna be bring some trouble to this movie. I don't think things are gonna stop drastically for this movie, but it's gonna be interesting to see if Stitch will still maintain the spotlight it had for itself, given the new stars in town, if you will. I think what happens these next 2 weeks are going to be crucial to if it can cross $1 billion, because it seemed like Minecraft was going to do it, but it didn't, and it seemed like Lilo and Stitch is gonna do it, but again, the competition. So these next 2 weeks going to be very, very crucial to where this movie heads. But still, this movie is already still the biggest movie of the summer. It's the second biggest movie of the year domestically. Worldwide, it's number 3 or number 4, I think, but still a hugely successful movie. I don't think anyone at the studio or making this movie is looking at these numbers and like trembling in their boots or anything. Movie is still very, very successful. What happens next, on the other hand, that's where things change. That's where things are definitely going to change for this movie. But yeah, still very successful, huge hit overall. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have one new major wide release, that film being How to Train Your Dragon. That's right, it's DreamWorks' turn to step into the live-action remake craze, as it will be adapting its beloved 2010 animated film of the same name. Obviously, this is a formula and a trend that's been working for a long time. I mean, we just got done talking about Lilo and Stitch. It was, like I said, it was only a matter of time before DreamWorks would step into this trend and cash in on Disney's success. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't make sense to start with this one. How to Train Your Dragon is one of, if not the most beloved DreamWorks trilogy out there. People love those movies, and it just made sense to start with this one. I'm personally against it, but I can't deny that it made the most sense. And I think it's safe to say that this one's going to be a really big hit. The marketing for this has been great. Not Lilo and Stitch great, but great. A lot of promos, a lot of solid marketing stuff here. The tie-in with Burger King, all the commercials and trailers really selling this movie on the greatness of the first one and how it translates into live action. The buzz is strong. Lots of people very excited to go check it out. It's the first kids movie in a while. Yeah, overall, I think this is going to be a slam dunk, going to be a really big hit. I'm not sure if it's going to reach the heights of Minecraft or Lilo and Stitch, but it would not surprise me if this movie exceeded a lot of people's expectations. I think the hype is there. Add on to the fact that there's a bunch of shiny new How to Train Your Dragon rides at that shiny new theme park in Orlando, and that's free advertising alone. Yeah, overall, I think this movie's going to crush it this weekend. I, again, think we're going to see some really surprising, strong numbers with this one. I think it's going to really impress. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.